President-elect Trump just rang the opening bell on the New York Stock Exchange after being named Time's Person of the Year. He's flanked there by some family members, and there's the audience watching him. Investors will be watching Trump's economic plans closely as markets respond to his proposed policies. And again, there he is after ringing the opening bell. You see his family behind him, his wife, his two daughters, his AG nominee, Pam Bondi, Vice President-elect J.D. Vance. ABC's business reporter Alexis Christoforous joins me now, along with senior White House reporter Selina Wang in West Palm Beach for more on this. Selina, what does this all mean for President-elect Trump's transition and the tone he's trying to set for his presidency?
Yeah, Diane, I mean, this is a really symbolic moment, and it just speaks to the historic turn of events for Donald Trump, this historic comeback that he's had. I mean, just think about it. About half a year ago, Donald Trump was sitting in that Manhattan courtroom. He became the first former president to be convicted of a crime, and now he is ringing the opening bell for the New York Stock Exchange. He's just been named Time Magazine's Person of the Year, and Donald Trump, he struck this upbeat tone there when he spoke just moments ago, saying that he prefers winning Time Magazine's Person of the Year more this time around. He has a long history with that magazine. He was named Person of the Year in 2016 after he won the first time around, and he said before that he read this magazine growing up. And last year, though, Taylor Swift got the honor, so you can see just the change of events in just a year. And in announcing this decision, the editor-in-chief of Time said that, for better or for worse, Donald Trump made the most news in 2024. Now, it's also symbolic that he is ringing that opening bell for the stock exchange, given that Donald Trump historically has often looked at the markets as an indicator or validator of his economic policies. We saw the markets get a big boost after his election, but it could be a rocky road ahead if he makes good on some of his vows, including those sweeping tariffs, Diane.
Now, Alexis, markets jumped after Trump's election, but they have tapered since. What's the current sentiment on Wall Street towards his economic proposals?
You know, there are a few presidents that I can think of in recent history that are sort of preoccupied with the stock market. He seems to tie his performance to the success of the stock market, and he is seen as a pro-markets president, mostly because of his policies, right? Tax cuts, less regulation. I do think that some presidents take too much credit for when the stock market's doing well and get too much of the blame when it's not. Because think about it, the presidents don't directly impact the stock market. Typically, Congress and the Federal Reserve play larger roles in directly shaping markets. But here's a look at how he stacks up against other recent presidents in terms of market performance. The S&P 500, which is tied to many people's 401ks, for example, and a good indicator of overall market health, it's up 58% so far under Joe Biden. It was up 61% during Donald Trump's first term. But look at this, Barack Obama, 77% rise in the S&P 500. Remember, that was when we were coming out of the Great Recession. And also, let us not forget, Tesla stock is up better than 60%. Bitcoin is up more than 50% since Election Day on the hopes that, President-elect Trump's policies will benefit them.
Meanwhile, President Biden slamming Trump's proposed tariffs, calling it a major mistake. Here's part of what he had to say.
He seems determined to impose steep universal tariffs on all imported goods brought to this country on the mistaken belief that foreign countries will bear the cost of those tariffs rather than the American consumer. I believe we've proven that approach is a mistake over the past 4 years. But we all know in time, what will happen.
Selina, Biden had the option to repeal Trump's tariffs. He kept some of those in place. Is the White House saying anything to explain that? And what's the latest on what Trump is saying about these tariffs?
Yeah, so President Biden's administration, they kept in place many of Donald Trump's tariffs on China, the more targeted tariffs. They say that their strategy is to build a high wall around a select group of industries. So they kept those tariffs, especially in those high technology industries. But when it comes to Donald Trump's vows, and as we talk about the markets and how much Trump cares about the markets, tariffs are something that investors are deeply worried about, and it could cause a dip in the market. So Donald Trump, he has vowed to impose these 25% across-the-board tariffs on Canada and Mexico, and 10% tariffs on goods imported from China. So these are America's top 3 trading partners. Economists are warning that if Trump follows through on that threat, it would dramatically raise prices for everyday goods, and it would increase inflation as well. You know, I've been talking to some of these Democratic governors about what they're most concerned about in this incoming administration, and some of them say that their top concern is around tariffs. The Massachusetts governor telling me she's especially concerned about what this could mean for housing prices. On the campaign trail, Donald Trump has repeatedly said that it's foreign countries who pay for tariffs, but that's just not the case. Those higher costs that American companies have to pay are largely passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices.
Alexis, Trump's also pledging expedited permits for businesses that invest more than $1 billion in the U.S. How would that work, and how are lawmakers and business leaders reacting to that?
Yeah, he announced this just recently. We don't really have, much in the way of specifics, but we do know that it's really a bipartisan issue, this permit reform. I think many legislators agree that there needs to be something done. There are so many projects sitting on the sidelines, wrapped up in a lot of red tape, projects that could do good for the economy and actually add jobs to the economy. But like many of his proposals, it will probably be met with a lot of legislative hurdles, regulatory hurdles. There are some laws on the market, on the books right now, including a landmark law that requires federal agencies to consider the environmental impact before deciding on major projects. So some top Democrats are calling this a dirty deal. They say it would exempt some mining companies and oil and gas drilling projects from federal review. But some top Republicans say his second term is going to be a golden age of regulation cutting, including a promise to drill, baby, drill. Diane.
All right, Alexis, Christoforous, Selina, Wang, thank you both.